Just one moment.
Okay.
Okay. And we'll go it and record to the cloud. Okay, so it's great. I will start in Hebrew, and then Lior will say some word in English, and then we can start. We can start the lesson. ברוכים הבאים לידידי הדרמה, לזום שאנחנו עושים היום. זה לימוד ותרגול בזמנים שהם בהחלט מאתגרים ולא קלים עבור אף אחד. ידידי הדרמה החליטו לקחת את הנושא הלימוד של בודהיצ'יטה, את הטקסט של 7 נקודות לאימון התודעה של גשה צ'קאווה, אני מקווה שאני אומרת את זה נכון, ולהתמקד בפן המעשי של פיתוח התודעה ותרגולי מדיטציה. השיעור הזה של הבודהיצ'יטה, הוא עם הנזירה גשה קלסנג וואנגמו, שבעצם מלווה אותנו כבר כמה שנים. השיעור, אני מקליטה אותו והוא יעלה ליוטיוב והוא יהיה זמין שם. אני כן מבקשת להתחשב במורה ולהשאיר את המצלמות פתוחות בשביל שלא תראה חושך. דנה, נדיבות הלב ניתן לתרום דרך אתר האינטרנט של ידידי הדרמה, אבל אני כן רוצה קצת להדגיש את הפעילויות הדרמה בשבוע הקרוב שקשורות לכל המצב הזה שיש כאן. קודם כל, יש לנו קריאה יומית של סוטרת האור עם הנזירה הנילוסנג. יש לנו מדי ערב תרגול תרה ירוקה, ויש לנו תרגול תרה לבנה בשבת הקרובה בזום. כמו כן פתחנו מרכז תמיכה, וניתן באתר של ידידי הדרמה לראות שם את פרטי הקשר, או לפנות לכל אחד מאיתנו. מה שאנחנו עושים היום זה לימוד שהוא יהיה כל יום שני, בזמן הקרוב עם הנזירה גשה קלסנג וואנגמו לבודהיצ'יטה. בימי ראשון, שלישי וחמישי בשעה 5 בשפה העברית, ישנם מפגשי תמיכה בזום, שבהם אנחנו בעצם יכולים לשתף אחד השני במה שעובר עלינו ולקבל תמיכה מהסנגה. בימי שישי יש תרגול רוחני של דרך הבודהיצ'יטה עם הנזיר קרצ'ון, זה בזום, זה בשעה 2 וזה בעברית. וכמו כן, ודי חשוב, יש לנו מדיטציות כל יום ראשון, שלישי וחמישי, מ7 עד 8, וזה נראה לי שזה יכול לעזור לחלק מאיתנו, אם לא לכולנו. אז אתם מוזמנים ממש ממש בחום להצטרף. ההצטרפות היא דרך אתר ידידי הדרמה, יש בדף הראשי של ידידי הדרמה, יש שם את כל הפעילויות וניתן דרך הקישור להיכנס. אנחנו משתדלים גם בקבוצות הוואטסאפ וגם דרך הפייסבוק לעדכן מה שיש. אני אשאיר כאן את הטלפון שלי, אם תרגישו שאתם רוצים להצטרף לאיזושהי קבוצת וואטסאפ שלנו ולקבל מידע בזמן אמת, אז אתם יותר ממוזמנים. אם יש לכם שאלות על דברים שאנחנו עושים, או אתם רוצים להיות בקשר עם מישהו מסוים, או לשלוח שאלות, אתם גם יותר ממוזמנים. אני אתן עכשיו לליאור להגיד את הדברים האלה גם באנגלית, אז תודה שהצטרפתם אלינו לזום הזה.
Okay, thank you, Dalit. I probably won't remember everything you said, but I'll just say a few things. I hope the main things that might be of interest to all of us, all of you English speakers. First of all, good to see you. Difficult times for us. As I said, Dila, if you're here, please take in if needed. Difficult time for us, and if you like to ask a few questions about the situation, maybe we can stay after the teaching for a few minutes and talk about it if we feel like it. What the link said is that following the situation in Israel, we'll begin with Geshe. In each class, we'll begin this evening as part of the Lamrim teaching. At the beginning of each class, the teaching of 7 points of training the mind based on the text of Geshe Chekawa as the base, as the elaboration of the Lamrim teaching, and as the base of deepening and understanding emptiness. So this will be the focus of the teaching, and it will also include meditation. When Geshe complete this topics of Bodhicitta, we'll continue the text of Nagarjuna and the rental wisdom. So at our request, after consulting with Geshe is agreed to elaborate on Bodhicitta. It fits that's what we need these days. So thank you very much, Geshe. Also, because of this time, we are offering many other Dharma activities. Some of them are either Hebrew or English, or I'll focus on the English ones. Every evening at 8 o'clock Israeli times, now it's 6 p.m., and right after this teaching. Every evening at 8, we practicing Green Torah. So if there are English speakers, either Leora, the other Leora Price, or Tal, we leave it in English, and then we follow by the Heart Sutra. These are in the evenings. Every day, Annie Losang is here in Israel. You can see her here with us now. Annie Losang has kindly stayed in Israel to be with us this time. So every day, twice a day, she reads the Golden Sutra at 10 a.m. For 2 hours, and 3 p.m. For 2 hours. Not every day, but I think Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. I'm not sure about the date. Almost every day. Maybe we can give you can see the details on the website. And anything else in English? Gila, Eric, anyone? Annie Losang? That's it. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Geshe.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you, Laura. Thank you, Dalit.
Do you want
Yes?
The picture of Buddha Shakyamuni?
Just a sec. I'll say a few words, and then when we start with the motivation,
Okay.
yeah, and it'd be great to have the picture of the Buddha. All right. Well, Dalit, Laura, you've already spoken about it. That we have to take this break. Well, have to take in the sense that the situation right now in Israel and, well, anywhere in the world, really, I mean, everyone being affected to some degree, it's much more appropriate right now to focus on Bodhicitta, the practice of love, compassion in the context of Bodhicitta. But also, it's impossible to really understand Nagarjuna's text without generating, well, love, compassion, Bodhicitta, and accumulating enough positive potential. So Lama Tsongkhapa stressed this a lot, the importance of accumulating positive potential, since it prepares our mind to better understand what emptiness is all about. So it makes perfectly sense to take this break. The text, I haven't prepared it yet. I'm going to use a version of the 7-point mind training. There's so many different versions, but I'm going to use one that was put together by Pabonka Rinpoche in the last century. And it's a little bit more extensive. I'm probably going to use parts of Tenzin Jinpa's translation. Anyway, I'm going to put it together. I haven't had the time to do this yet, and it's not necessary for today. And what I want to focus on is not the philosophical aspects, but on the practical aspects. So everyday life in the 21st century, especially at this difficult time. So that's the plan for the coming weeks, and we'll see how far we get. I also want to hear your questions. I want to hear your comments. I want to, hear more from the group. So far, we haven't followed this kind of style of class. I ask you to send questions, like write them down, but I want to make time that whoever wants to say something, whoever wants to ask something has the opportunity to do so. What else? So that is just for the reason of what we're doing and about what we're going to do anyway. And for those of you who are not familiar with the class structure, I was asked to keep the class structure except for question and answer. That is new. And so for those of you who weren't here before, what is considered, of course, as you all know, so important is the right kind of motivation, which kind of means to prepare our mind in such a way that it's most receptive and we get the most out of the wisdom of the Buddha and of many great other masters. So it's generating the mind of enlightenment, however fake it may seem. We're doing it at whichever level we can. And of course, preceded by the generation of compassion and love. And I'm just going to guide you through the meditation. For some of you, it's very repetitive because we do it every time. And as I've said in the past, it's important, as it's said in the Zen tradition, to generate a beginner's mind, as if you were doing this for the very first time. So every time we do something for the first time, we're interested in it, we do it with much more attention to detail, we're more focused, etc., which is the kind of attitude, that kind of beginner's mind is very important for especially these repetitive practices. For some of you, repetitive because we've been doing them for years now. For some of you, new. But anyway, new, well, not totally new, but new in the way I go through them, through these different levels of generating love, compassion, and so forth. And please just do as much as you can. I'm going to take all sentient beings, focus on all sentient beings. Do whatever you can when we go through it, whatever feels comfortable. And of course, we start, before we do the actual meditation, we start with breathing, some breathing meditation, just to calm the mind, to be in the present, to be mindful. And then I ask you to visualize the embodiment of all enlightened qualities that we ourselves can attain in the form of the Buddha. Again, a way to stabilize the mind, but also to inspire it. And then go through the different minds that I ask you to generate, slowly building our love, our care for sentient beings. And then the end is basically then to generate the mind of enlightenment for the benefit of sentient beings as a motivation that is most helpful for our mind when we study the Dharma. All right, so having said all this, let's start with just some breathing meditation. Okay, and then I'll guide you through the meditation. You don't need to do anything except listen and meditate, of course. So first, mindfulness of the breath. And then visualize in the space in front of you on a large open lotus, top of which are a sun disk and a moon disk. the embodiment of all qualities, all enlightened qualities we ourselves can attain, appearing in the form of Buddha Shakyamuni. Who is inseparable from your personal Lama. Who wears the saffron robes of a monk. His left hand resting in his lap, holding a begging bowl in his right hand. And the gesture of touching the earth. With his appearance radiant and very inspiring. Being an embodiment of profound wisdom and great compassion. And then think that, wow, this object of inspiration is right in front of us. We're also surrounded by all sentient beings. Appearing as humans, quietly sitting all around us with all their problems, their worries, and their fears. And then remembering that all their faults, their shortcomings, their afflictions are not in the nature of their mind. They're temporary and can be removed. So let's focus on the actual nature of their mind, which is pure, clear in knowing. And generate a sense of affection. It's described as affectionate love. A feeling of concern. Acceptance and closeness. Towards these beings surrounding us. And then let's specifically focus on all their problems, all their difficulties, their pain, their afflictions. And generate great compassion. That is the wish for them to be totally free from all these shortcomings, all these aspects of dukkha or dissatisfaction. Combined with a wish, may I be able to help sentient beings in such a way that they'll overcome all these sufferings, these shortcomings, and any other unwanted experience. Allow yourself to wish for that from the depth of your heart. And that aspiration, and in the form of great compassion, then becomes the special altruistic attitude, which is the determination to do whatever I can to help sentient beings overcome all their unwanted experiences together with their causes, their wrong views, their hatred, their attachment, and so forth. The sense of taking personal responsibility to benefit sentient beings in that way. But then, based on the recognition that right now we're limited by our own afflictions and other shortcomings, let's generate the wish, may we be able to actualize our fullest potential in the form of attaining the mind of a Buddha, the awakened consciousness of a Buddha. To be able to fully benefit other sentient beings in the most effective way. So in that way, generate bodhicitta, the wish to become fully awakened for the benefit of each and every sentient being. So without letting go of that motivation, let's recite the prayer of refuge and bodhicitta 3 times. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the accumulation of merits, of practicing generosity and so forth, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the accumulation of merits, of practicing generosity and so forth, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the accumulation of merits, of practicing generosity and so forth, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. Okay, thank you. All right, so as I said, we'll start with the Lamrim, but before we do, I want to say a few words. As I mentioned earlier, the purpose of this class, the purpose of this get-together here is to do our very best to learn about bodhicitta, to learn about love, compassion. Of course, we already know a lot about it, but to hopefully deepen that understanding, but even more importantly, to put it into practice together here in the form of, well, meditation we do, and of course then to bring it into our daily life, especially at this extremely traumatic time. I mean, for everyone in Israel, this is a very traumatic time, and to find a way to, well, generate this healing awareness, or the healing mind of bodhicitta, of love, compassion, and so forth. So I've tried to keep in touch, of course, with the situation that is going on. Friends of mine keep sending me material, and I have a slight sense of it, but of course I have no idea what it is like to be affected directly, in the sense of being affected by one's own relatives, one's own friends, or even oneself being injured, etc. But even without being directly affected in such a way, what it's like to be in Israel right now as an Israeli being under attack. And I've tried to get a better sense of it. And I listened to this interview a friend of mine sent me, Ronnie. She sent me this interview that CNN had with Yuval Noah Harari, the very famous author and intellectual. And he talked about the attack, and he talked about the attack of the Hamas, and he said that, well, and I'm just quoting him here, this attack was not aimed at only spreading terror, but to sow, that is, to plant the seeds of hatred that will ensure that this terrible conflict will go on for generations. And I was thinking, oh, well, what can we do as a countermeasure to sow the seeds, to plant the seeds of compassion, of love, as such a powerful means to, well, planting the seeds of hatred. To sow the seeds of hatred immediately, I mean, by the actions that took place, of course, it has a very powerful effect right away. But, well, and in comparison to that, compassion takes much longer. It doesn't have that same effect. We have to work on our compassion. It only has a strong effect if our compassion is really strong, but it will have a long-term effect, an effect that lasts much longer, and that's so much healthier. So you've probably all heard this saying, hatred and anger and so forth harm ourselves. There's this saying, it's attributed to the Buddha, but I don't think the Buddha said it, that getting angry, having hatred in our heart is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. The Buddha said something slightly differently. The Buddha actually said hatred, getting angry or having hatred is like holding a burning piece of ember, thinking of throwing it at someone else, but you get burned yourself. So holding this burning piece of coal or ember, it burns your own hand, and you won't be able to effectively throw it at anyone. So this is something the Buddha has actually said. So on the other hand, love and compassion, we have a sense that just benefits the other person, but it doesn't. It mainly benefits ourselves. It's one of the most healing, the most beneficial types of mind that automatically calm the mind. As it arises, it calms the mind. And as opposed to anger, it has a very healing effect. And it benefits the other person only if we act out of it. But other than that, it mainly benefits us. And that's good. We need to start with ourselves. It's definitely good to focus on ourselves when it comes to a situation like this, but any situation. So this is not selfishness. This is focusing ourselves with wisdom. Now, bodhicitta, as we learn about bodhicitta, as it's described in the Lamrim, so we're going to go through the Lamrim. Here it starts to talk right away about bodhicitta, but what we shouldn't forget is that bodhicitta is based on incredible love and compassion. I mean, bodhicitta without compassion and love is impossible. So it's the main aspect. It's the main aspect of this mind of enlightenment. Although it's stressed a lot, it's spoken of a lot, but implied by talking about, like His Holiness Dalai Lama, he talks about bodhicitta all the time. But implied in that is, of course, this incredible love and compassion for oneself and others. And these need to be addressed. And hopefully we can do this together. I'm going to start now with the Lamrim. I'm just going to share the screen with you. So this is where we got to actually as part of the other topic we've been studying so far. We finished the first two sections, and now we talk about the altruistic intention, or bodhicitta. Excuse me. So there's not so much to say about these qualities, these advantages. Some are more relevant than others, so I'll just briefly go through them. Well, the first one is considered extremely important. It's saying it's the gateway for entering the Mahayana path. So for entering the path, the means. Path here is a consciousness, a type of mind that serves as a means to actually attain the awakened state of a Buddha, which we can all attain. Initially, it seems impossible. But there's a certain time, some of my teachers talk about it in this way, saying initially it's like when you set off from the jungle and there's no road, there's no paved path. It's just this difficulty of walking over rocks and roots and muddy kind of areas. It's so difficult. So that's like starting off with Buddhist practice. But as you continue on, eventually you reach this road. You reach this paved road, a road that is relatively easy to travel on. So for someone who's advanced in their practice, as they advance, it gets easier and easier. So that's the good news. And so once a person has actually generated this incredible love and compassion that we're going to discuss as part of this class, well, then they continue on to generate what's called bodhicitta, and that is said to be the entryway. That's when you've entered what's called the Mahayana path. By definition, it marks the first moment of the Mahayana path. And one is then called child of the Buddha, which is in Tibetan, it's just another way of saying bodhisattva. It's like using the name Se. It's kind of honorific for son or daughter or child. In this case, I mean, using the general term. So it's honorific, sometimes translated as prince or princess, but really it's child of the Buddha. So one receives that name. Okay, big deal. It's a name, but still it means something very specific, that you're moving closer to that awakened state. Then one will surpass in brilliance the Shravakas and solitude realizers. Okay, not to go into that. I mean, those beings aiming for, well, I say only self-liberation. It's amazing that someone actually aims for this self-liberation, but still a bodhisattva is someone who surpasses that because of the degree of love and compassion and the determination to be there for all sentient beings. One becomes an object of highest respect and offering. Well, that's important only as long as we're extremely self-centered. I mean, once you reach that state, whether you're respected or not, or you receive offerings or not, who cares? But then the next point is one will easily complete the collections of merit and insight. Now that is so important, because as we practice the Dharma, as we engage in Dharma practice, we'll face obstacles, a lot of obstacles. And so to overcome these obstacles, it's important to have what's called these collections of merit, this positive potential. Some people compare it to, I don't know, having money in the bank and being able to now start a business or something. It's just something that it's not a good comparison. I mean, the money in the bank, but it's like a capital, if you like. It's some positive potential or some virtue, as it's sometimes described, or merit. It's very difficult to describe it, that enable us to progress on the path with less obstacles. So that's called merit. So this positive potential is accumulated actually relatively easily, if we really make an effort, by generating love, compassion, and acting out of it. And then, of course, there's insight, and those two assist each other. The more love and compassion we generate, the deeper our insight. And through deeper insight, love and compassion also grow stronger. They assist each other. And in this way, obstacles and negative karmic residues that were left on our mind, well, they're quickly eliminated. And whatever we wish for in general will happen. But of course, based on love and compassion, the wishes we have are virtuous wishes to benefit others, etc. And this altruistic attitude prevents others, prevents harm and interferences. And one will quickly complete all the realizations of the path. And will become, of course, a source of great comfort and happiness for all beings. So these are just some of the benefits. But for us, what is important right now? I mean, even if enlightenment, okay, yeah, that would be nice. Awakening, that would be great, but it may not be our main goal. I mean, life is difficult, everyday challenges. It's not our main goal, possibly, or it's a main goal, but there's lots of other goals. Well, it's extremely beneficial in our daily life. It is the solution to, well, all our problems. It doesn't seem that way. It doesn't seem that way on first hearing about it. But I guess the best way to find out is to put it into practice. So the best way is to put into practice what are called love, compassion, etc. And very fittingly, and again, like I said, I haven't had time to prepare the text. I needed to finish something else first, and I just finished about an hour before class. But very fittingly, the text starts with paying homage to great compassion. So basically, the author, Geshe Chekawa, he said, I pay homage, what's another word? I bow, if you like, or I pay respect to this mind. That may sound a little weird, like why would you pay respect to something that's not a person or not like an entity that you could actually see, etc. No, it's just a state of mind. It's a very typical traditional Tibetan way to open ourselves to something as important and as healthy, as healing, as great compassion. It's actually, in some contexts, almost more important than bodhicitta. I mean, great texts, such as the text by Chandrakirti, a great Indian master, in his entry into the middle way of emptiness, he pays homage to great compassion, saying great compassion is so important. It's important in the beginning, whatever you do when you start off your practice, in the middle, and even at the end. So an awakened being is driven by this incredible compassion. All right. But what is compassion? What does that actually mean, compassion? I mean, we use a word from our everyday language, and it means something different. It's not exactly, it has to be specifically defined what compassion is. It's a state of mind. Okay, we know this much. It's a specific state of mind that we can all generate. And to a certain degree, we all have it. All people, everyone has a certain degree of compassion. We're born with it. I mean, little children, like when we look at children, when they see another being, and there's been a lot of research on that. So little children, when they see another child or another person in distress or an animal, they feel distraught. They want to. They first of all, they're distraught by seeing that. So children are like that, but apparently also animals react. I've heard this. I've heard about this research that even chicken, when they see another chicken in distress, they show this. Well, what I don't know. It's not full-blown compassion the way a human being can show it, but definitely it distresses them. It disturbs them, and they possibly want to go and help that other. The other chicken. And we've seen it with elephants and other animals that they try, like dogs, trying to help the person who's in distress. So we all have the potential to generate that type of mind. And there's a reason for why we're limited in doing so. And that is our misapprehension of reality. It's the root misapprehension, holding on to an unrealistic kind of self, exaggerating the way the self actually exists, solidifying it, making it more solid than it actually is. And that gives rise to a constant self-obsession, if you like. I mean, it sounds really rough. It sounds really extreme, but it's like our self-centeredness and our sense of foreboding that something may happen to the I, mine, and so forth in an extreme way. Well, that keeps us from having real compassion. Now, that is the Buddhist theory, and it's difficult. It's very difficult to actually counteract that. But well, as we go through it to get a better sense of what compassion is, there's actually also something called self-compassion. Because although we have a mind that's very much focused on I, me, and mine, but because of that mind, we can actually greatly harm ourselves in the sense of acting in a way that is in opposition to compassion for ourselves. We're all familiar with this, I think, especially in the 21st century. Self-compassion has become so important. And self-compassion is not the same as self-centeredness. Self-compassion in the 21st century, where there's so much pressure to be successful, to have certain material possessions. I mean, other people expect it of us to have certain positions, certain possessions, to have a car, to have a house, to own this, to own that, etc. So there's a lot of pressure in terms of material possessions. There's also a lot of pressure in terms of our standing in society, how successful we are. And our self-worth is very much seen on the basis of that. And also at times of problems, we have a sense, I could have done more. I should have done more. I haven't been better. I haven't been, why did this happen to someone else and not to me? Feeling guilty that something happened to another person, but not to myself, etc. So all this has to do somehow with this misperception of ourselves and the resulting what's called self-cherishing. And it seems totally contradictory. But this self-centeredness, this self-obsession is an extreme mind. It's extreme. And we have very high expectations of ourselves, expectations that we cannot always fulfill. It goes to such a degree that we may actually hate ourselves out of self-cherishing. So self-hatred. I'm not good enough. I'm not this. I should be better. I think especially when you come to Buddhism, self-hatred can become an issue. I should be more compassionate. I should be kinder. I should understand this better. So somehow it seems a normal reaction. First of all, we think of the self a lot more. We may obsess about the self more. It's just an initial thing. It calms down, but initially that's what happens. And because if we were like non-religious before we ever encountered Buddhism, well, when we do, then it's like we should do this, we shouldn't do that. And we put a lot of pressure on ourselves. So compassion with ourselves is extremely important. When we're sad, that's okay. If we feel depressed, that's okay. I'm not saying it's okay to be depressed, no. But if we feel that way, instead of suppressing it and disliking ourselves and, well, keeping it a secret from other people, that's one thing. To not talk about it with other people, which can be extremely unhealthy, to keep it to just ourselves, but even ourselves to not admit. So I think kindness towards ourselves is so important. And that is not self-centeredness. It's this fine balance between being totally obsessed with ourselves and just I'm, me, and mine, and I need to be the best and the fastest and the this and that, versus totally neglecting ourselves. So it's this fine line. It's not neglecting ourselves, not at all. Love and compassion have to start with ourselves. So I think that's one extremely important aspect of compassion. But it's also accepting ourselves for who we are, the self-acceptance, to understand my shortcomings, to understand my weaknesses, and there's so many of them. I mean, in my own case, there's so many of them. To acknowledge them, to understand they can be changed. It just takes time, and maybe take it with some humor. I mean, my own shortcomings, they can really make me laugh, how my afflictions try to deceive myself and try to tell myself I'm doing the Dharma, I'm practicing the Dharma. So looking at my own mind with a sense of humor really helps me. So to have humor and also understanding for one's own shortcomings, but also focus on our good qualities. Our good qualities, the good things, the qualities we have, the strength we have, especially at this day and age, to look inwards and see our strength. And you know, I have a good friend in Israel, Alon, and he told me about how many people at this point in time are going out and helping others. This is something extremely beautiful, and it comes out of compassion. It comes out of love to do something about this situation. So, of course, helping ourselves, but also helping others. And I think that's the healthiest reaction. And it's beautiful that people have this reaction naturally. I have to do something. I need to do something. So, of course, we need to take care of ourselves, of our own family, but to also reach out. That's one of the healthiest ways, I believe, if it's done, of course, with this intention to help, not just because our neighbor does and because I feel pressure to do it. No, out of this sincere wish to help. Now, as I said, compassion is a state of mind. It first of all has the aspect of affection. So if you take the definition, it's an affectionate mind. What is affection? What is that affection? It's really difficult to define. Compassion is defined in the scriptures as an affectionate mind, first of all, that wishes for someone to be free from suffering. Okay. Now, in the meditation we did, we started off with a state of mind that's called affectionate love. It's not compassion. Affection is, first of all, a mind that feels close, that cares for others, a feeling of closeness. No matter who they are, a feeling of closeness. So usually we have a reason such as they're part of my family, for instance. We have a reason, something that connects us with that person. Okay, so there's someone who's part of my family. They're my friends. They come from the same community. They have the same faith. They have the same nationality. They come from the same continent. Whatever the reasons, it's usually something we have in common. It could be the reasons just given, but it could also be because they like the same music, they dress in a similar way, whatever. It's usually something that connects us, something we have in common. And that being such a strong force to feel close to someone, well, from a Buddhist point of view, there's something we have in common with everyone. So this is something that's always mentioned. It's actually really, really deep when we think about it. That no matter who this person is, whoever, I mean, even animals are driven by the same wish, which is to be free from unwanted experiences and instead to experience happiness, the degree of well-being, of having our wishes fulfilled and not having unwanted experiences. So that's what we have in common with everyone. And based on that, since we have that in common with everyone, it is possible to get that sense that whoever we meet, however different we may be, but that thing we have in common, And to go even deeper, to understand that in terms of the subtlest type of mind, the root mind that is all the same for all of us, a very, very subtle mind. That is the essence of all minds, if you like, a kind of consciousness that sometimes arises, rarely, but it does arise, very, very subtle mind. And that mind is totally pure. There is no negativity. It's said to be imbued by love and compassion. And everyone has that mind, but it can't come to the surface, only rarely. And it's exactly that mind that becomes enlightened. When you are able to manifest that mind through your meditation, time and again, and at some point it always remains. That is another way of saying you've become awakened, that very subtle mind. Anyway, it's a little advanced, that kind of explanation, but it's not that hard to understand. And so to understand, everyone has that mind, has that kind of mind. We have that in common with everyone. All right. So to focus on these commonalities. And what's also really, really powerful is to make use of what are called our mirror neurons, to put ourselves into the other person's shoe, to imagine we were them. We were in their situation, in their surrounding, in the way they were brought up and so forth. Now, as I said in the very beginning, you start off not with people we have a hard time with. No, we start off with people that we don't find that so difficult to do with. I mean, maybe our relatives, our friends. We oftentimes do that anyway. I mean, like when they tell us about a problem, we listen to them, we imagine what it feels like, and what would I do in that situation, trying to say something that may help them to overcome this problem, this situation. Let me just go back to the main street. I want to see everyone. How do I do this now? Can you undo the sharing? Oh yeah, there you are. Okay, great. Okay, so these are the first few steps to focus on, like what I said just now, to focus on the fact we all have this mind. We all have a mind that on its deepest, and we focus on people, we focus only on people initially that we don't have a hard time with. So don't overdo it. Just start with some. This nature of the mind that, especially when it's very, very subtle, like when we fall asleep and very deep state, the state of very deep sleep, it's a much more subtler mind than when we're awake. And of course, when we die, when we fall unconscious. So there's certain types of subtle minds that we all have in common. And what I find also very, very powerful is to think that at some point we were all children. We were born as little children. Let's leave out animals. Let's start with human beings at this point. So just think of a human being at the time when they were little. I don't think there's a single human being who is born a serial killer or is born as a thief or is born this way or that way. So to remember that actually at the time of our birth, we were pretty much similar. And then, of course, there are predispositions we were born with, there's an environment we're born with, and so forth, and a person changes. They grow up and turn into this, that, and the other. But focusing on this, focusing on those aspects, first of all, when they were children, on their subtler minds that manifest at certain times, when they're asleep, when they're unconscious, etc. And of course, the fact that we're all the same and wanting to be free from problems and wanting to be happy. Of course, we use the weirdest means and methods to do so. So out of our ignorance, out of our misperception of reality and so forth, but still, we share that with everyone. So getting a sense of that the commonality, the things we have in common with others. And that is the first step towards a sense of, well, maybe, and here I'm saying just certain select people. I'm not saying start with everyone, but just certain people, we can actually generate a sense of closeness. All right. And having done that, having kind of laid the foundation for compassion being the main cause of bodhicitta, so laying the foundation in that sense, what we have in common, our mind, our desires, our deepest desires, will then generate a sense of closeness and focus after that. So having generate that sense of closeness, that kind of sense of care, then we focus on their problems. We focus on what's amiss in their life or what is extra really in their life. extra in the sense that all our problems, all our difficulties, our afflictions, they're all not in the nature of our minds. They're extra. They're obstructions, they're hindrances that can actually be removed. So the wish for them to be free from all that is extra, from all that is harmful, based on that affection, that is called compassion. All right. Now, most of you are familiar with this, and as I go through the 7 points, it does come up, and Bodhicitta is explained again in more detail. But let's first take some questions. If you have any questions, anything you want to say, please do so. You can raise your hand or just open your mic. No one? What I want to hear is whether that in any way, I mean, of course, I address the Buddhist way. This is the Buddhist approach. Is that in any way beneficial? Or is it just theory? This is just, it doesn't help at all.
Can I say something?
Yes.
Yeah. So, well, you know, again, me as a Buddhist nun, of course, not an Israeli, it's easy to talk.
Yes.
But we just finished 8 Nunes, and it was near the Lebanese border, and we were in 2 minds, continue, no continue. But I saw that, you know, doing but that, because developing bodhicitta in daily life, when, you know, bombs, this, that, is very difficult, or keeping it. But since we were doing 3 sessions a day, and just Genre 6, sending out light, doing Tonglen and all this, everybody who participated and then they left, they actually left with a very calm mind and an open heart. And they said, well, there's nothing better to do at that time. I mean, who has the time to do, you know, to go away from home and to totally kind of isolate, be in silence and do newness? But if you do it intensively, it definitely helps. I mean, I can say that. I think I wouldn't have been able to stay here if I wouldn't have to practice. So this is from my side. But then again, you know, since 30 years, I'm doing nothing but that. So, so I feel the effect, but it takes time for this to work. And also at no time, anybody who participated in the Nune, you know, expressed anger or hatred or whatever, just to be calm and to stay calm and to be helpful in that situation.
Well, that's a good point. Definitely that it takes so much time, and we need to have the time, first of all. So true. Yeah. And at this point in time, the situation you're in right now, the only way to do something about love and compassion, I guess, is just to isolate yourself for a few minutes every day, if that's possible. And I don't know if there's any other suggestion you would have, Lobsang, except that. I mean, of course, if you can go and do a retreat, that's even better. But
well, you see, I thought, okay, so if I stay here, so what do I do? And then in Switzerland, we read this Golden Light Sutra quite often. And Lama Zopa Rinpoche, he put a lot of effort into making it available in many languages, unfortunately not in Hebrew. And it tells you the benefit of reading the sutra and this and that. So if you start reading it, it doesn't make any sense at all. I don't know if you know it. You know, it's like these funny mantras, these very long names of Tathagatas and this and that. But again, because I'm familiar with the sutra and we read it on all the wheel turning days, for me, this is a very easy way to calm down because you're focused, you're doing something, and if you can let go that you have to understand what is recited, tremendous effect. But for Israelis, and excuse me, all the Israelis, it's extremely difficult to recite something when they don't know what it means. Yeah, because they love to study, they love to debate, they love to meditate and all this. But I also have to say, many of them are out volunteering, so they don't have time to participate in the recitation. So it's like, you know.
Right.
So I see that, you know, we do it on Zoom, and I see that people from Switzerland participate, somebody from England participates, from Nepal, like Turjim was participating this morning, because they know the benefit of the sutra. But, you know, to have the faith and the trust that you just start, even you don't like to do it and you don't understand anything. For that, you need, in my eyes, a guru like Lama Zopa Rinpoche, who just said, look, this is it, recite it.
You know, that it holds some kind of blessing. I mean, something that for us is not obvious.
No, not at all. Because when there's resistance, then of course you go like, why am I reading this? And I had a lot of resistance. Because I thought, you know, these funny mantras, the long names. But I benefit, but only now. So this is why I thought, okay, other people can teach and, you know, talk to people, because I'm not a psychologist, you know. I don't know when somebody is really in distress and what happened to them. I don't know what to say. I can only give them Buddhist Dharma, and sometimes I feel this is not the right thing in that moment. It's too much, too difficult. True. It's too...
Yes.
You know, so then, okay, so what I'll do while I'm here, I just, you know, the whole day, I just recite the sutra. And we do little texts like Kuntu Zampa's prayer against Tong Tong Gyalpo and all this. And that's what I can do, and this is what I'm doing. And for me, this seems okay.
Yes. Very good. I mean,
you know, in the preface it says, Lama Zopa Rinpoche says, the best is you recite the sutra in the country where there is war. So since I'm already here,
might as well do that. Yeah.
So I don't need to go anywhere. I'm already here. So that's fine, you know. So, yeah.
I think it's really nice that you're stressing this fact that there's so many different means of going about it. I mean, to generate compassion and love. I mean, to recite a sutra in that way. And it holds a special blessing. I mean, just calming the mind. And of course, compassion and love are all part of the whole of any teaching, really. And then also people going out and helping others. I mean, that is compassion in action, definitely. And just being there for others. I mean, there's so many different ways, definitely. I think it's beautiful you bring it up. I mean, I wasn't thinking of reciting a sutra, but you're right. Of course, these sutras hold so much blessing. I mean, they go all the way back to the Buddha. Yeah.
Can I say something?
Yes, please. Of course.
Okay, it's Liora and then Elisheva.
I would like to share with you how it affected me. In the first few days of the war, during the 10 days, I had a huge range of feelings. And I'm Buddhist, so thousands of Dharma thoughts together. Starting from fear, shock, sorrow, a closed heart. And whenever I saw terrible sights on television, I thought about, okay, let's see if you can try impermanence, if you can look for the emptiness of the self. It didn't help, it was too advanced. So I just come now down by breathing. That's what I needed at the time, just to breathe. And then I thought that my heart was closed. And what I needed the most is to open the heart. I take refuge and say the four immeasurables several times a day, just because I'm used to do it. But in order to connect and to find an immediate help, I need just to think about loving kindness, feeling closeness to the people close to me. Then I enlarge the circle to the people I know, my friends, people who have relatives in the war, people who are injured and I know them, other people, people of Israel, those heroic people who are going and so generous. Whenever I reached the politicians who I found responsible, the criticism and anger came up, and I don't want it, but it was there. So I don't want to suppress it. I cannot deal with it. So I try to open the heart slowly, gently, just as much as I can. So I thought that the practicing of opening the heart, that's what I needed at the beginning. And now also, just working on it. Thinking about impermanent helps me. I know that things will change. Unfortunately, when I think about the future, I'm not optimistic. So I said, let's live here and now. You can't ignore the future. You can't ignore reality, but stay in the here and now. Things are okay, relative. When I try to bring karma into it, it comes even if I don't want to, because that's the way I think. So it comes. Okay, I'm responsible for it. How can I take it? Wow. And so I maybe not right now, maybe later, maybe in general terms. So I have to just pick the practices that, and volunteering goes to others. I just give you a small example, what's going on in this country. The families of injured people who are in hospital next to my home are staying in a college really next to my home. And there was a message, please come and be with them. Please stay them, they're alone. I immediately, Nomi and I immediately responded, can we come? And the answer was, please help us to not distribute this message. We're having more people than we need. Many people already came in no time. So this fills the heart. It opens the heart. I have to see this part of this wonderful society also. And it shows me that generosity is something in our nature. And whenever it comes spontaneously, if we live in times like this, it's lovely to see. But so in just to sum it up, love, of course, trying to develop compassion and but at least loving kindness as much as I can to as many people as I can. For me, it's just breathing when I need. For me, it's the best practice. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Beautiful.
Yeshima, do you want,
yes.
There is 3 other people who wants to ask question. You want first to hear all the question and then to answer, or you want to answer to each one?
Well, this was not a question. I wanted to hear this side. I mean, I don't think it was a question.
About what they want to say about sharing. If you want to say something after each one, the sharing, or you want to hear everyone first?
Let's just hear first what they, I can't say not yet, but that's first.
Okay. So Elisheva, then Shmuel, then Neta, okay? And if someone wants, you can raise hands.
Thank you very much, Kishima, for being here. I'm a protester for many years, like 4 years or something. I'm going every Saturday, also in the middle of the week. And I'm always telling that it's not the government. You can't, because I'm a good student, so I know I can't blame anything outside. It must be inside. So I did it, and even though I went to protest, I always felt guilty all the time. Like, why nothing good is going on? Why it's becoming worse and worse with the government and what they're doing? And from the last election, it becomes like, wow. I didn't know what was going on, but I was in Copan in November course last time with Lama Zopa Rinpoche, and I had some friends there, and I told them I'm going back to Israel, but I don't know if I will be alive on next November. I felt like something really bad is coming. And now when this war started, I wasn't surprised. I wake up my son, I told him, come, the war began. Yes, he's in the army, but he's safe in an office now. He used to be a soldier, but a fighter, but now he's. And I feel like now it's not me, because I feel again much more stronger that what is going on in the government, what they're doing, they're just killing us. I feel like I'm in the bardo. Now it's the bardo, they're killing me, and now I need to decide what to do. Yes, yesterday I'm going every day to the hotels where the families are from there. So yesterday I was playing football and I broke my leg. Not so hard, but I really broke it, and I'm with a broken leg. And I said, oh, never mind. Let's this. In Hebrew you say, oh, break your leg. It's like a luck. You have luck. So I said, maybe this broken leg will help someone, to save himself or something like that. But now, what is going on? Is it me killing myself? It's not the government. It's me all the time. It's me. So what is going on? Do I kill myself now with this process? Because unless they will move, the evil is going more and more and more and more. And now I can say, like, yes, because before my son told me, oh, you are thinking, and I told him something really great, big is coming. And now I see all the American armies there, the British is here, all this. And I said, oh, maybe it is our last days. And it's not like I will die, okay, but what to do with myself in this place? What to do to not feel that me is killing myself?
Well, first of all, I mean, you're saying that you are killing yourself with your thoughts or the external situation?
I'm responsible to what is going on, and it's become worse and worse. They decide things terrible. They make manipulation with the hostages' family. I don't want to tell everything, but I know, and other people say that unless this government is moving, the plan of this war won't be for the rescue of us, but for the rescue of the government. And I see that Biden is coming like to take lead, to be a leader, because if he understand that something is very bad is going in the leadership of this country now.
Right. I understand. I mean, you're not responsible. This is not your responsibility. You live in circumstances. We all live in the world right now that's basically going crazy. But I don't see that you're responsible. I mean, in terms of when we talk about karma, it's our personal experiences, but it's not everyone else's experiences that you're responsible for. I mean, I get what you're saying, this kind of doom, like, oh my God, I'm not in Israel. I don't know exactly what you're going through, but this world is right now with all these right-wing governments, and it's so crazy. But what helps me is to think, well, I'm in samsara. I am in samsara. I'm looking for happiness in a place. It's kind of like looking for the smell of perfume in a toilet that has never been cleaned. right? So it's unrealistic to try and find, I mean, even the Buddha himself, being an enlightened being, was in a world that is far from perfect. So I guess it's helpful for me personally. It's helpful to remind myself, okay, before it gets better, it may get worse. It's an up and down and up and down. And right now it's a down. And as Leora mentioned, impermanence, yes, it may go on downwards for a while, but no way it's going to go downwards all the time. And this is the existence we're in, right? That's samsara. It's samsara. And the sense of acceptance, that helps me to think, okay, let's not look for a lasting happiness, but to start with myself, thinking, okay, if I'm frustrated, that's also okay. If I get angry sometimes, okay. But to start with finding this inner peace out inside ourselves, first of all, even if everything around us is ugly. I mean, sometimes when I walk out of the door and there's garbage here and garbage there and monkey here, and also thinking, wow, but it's just the existence we're in right now, right? And I totally get what you're saying. It seems like it's getting worse and worse. And then, yeah, the political situation, the environment and everything, well, what goes down comes up again, and it's going to be like that time and again. But it sometimes seems a lot worse than it is. I mean, sometimes things can change overnight. We never know, but they can also get worse. Yeah. So unfortunately, I don't have any answer, but what helps me is to understand that that's the nature of our existence. And when we study this text, you know what's so beautiful about this mind training text is it utilizes problems into the path. To use problems, it's actually said to be the perfect text when everything goes wrong, right? The problem we have right now, well, first of all, if we don't practice the Dharma, we think, I want to be free from suffering. I just want to be happy. Okay, no, normal reaction. Then when we learn the Dharma, we think, oh yeah, that's the goal, to be free from suffering, but there's so much of it. But with the Dharma, actually, although the goal is to be free from suffering in the long term, we welcome suffering as a means to grow. So the text actually shows us what to do in the face of problems, right? When everything goes wrong, so the practitioners in the past, they would seek out problems and difficulties and use them. Oh, look at my own mind. What do I need to learn? What's going on, right? So if everything goes really smooth, we get lazy. If everything outside is perfectly, that's one disadvantage the mind we have. So it can be beneficial, but we have to learn how to use it. See it as something positive that can help us to grow, right? So as Jitsuma Densen Pamo, she's once said something. For Dharma practice, to shape our mind, you don't take a piece of wool, like when you want to form and you shape an object. When you take some soft wool, you're not going to shape it. You need sandpaper, right? To really get to know our mind, get to know our weaknesses, what we have to work on, we need sandpaper. And sometimes the environment, however bad it gets, if we utilize it in a positive way, it can really help us to grow. So hopefully we learn how to do this by going through this text. We're only at the beginning, right? Okay. So yeah. Okay. Great. Thank you for that. And then next person, Shmuel.
Shmuel, yeah.
Shmuel.
Hello. I have a more theoretical question, so maybe you can put it aside if you think it's, if you prefer to. I wanted to ask a question about self-cherishing. Self-cherishing, the meaning, it's defined, I think, as thinking of oneself as being more important than others. But according to Buddhist thinking, as far as I understand, by helping oneself, one actually helps others. Like if one practices compassion, the first recipient is oneself, but others also get the benefit, and vice versa. So this notion of self-cherishing actually sounds self-contradictory, because one cannot conceive, if one conceives of oneself, one cannot actually help oneself without helping others.
You're making a very important point. It's really tricky, that kind of exact middle way. Very good point. When is it not self-cherishing? And when is it self-cherishing? I mean, how do we really distinguish between the two? You're making a really good point. And in many situations, I come exactly at this point to be able to, I reach that point to be able to distinguish. Now, first of all, as you said, self-cherishing or self-centeredness, whichever word you want to use, is a mind that doesn't just consider myself to be more important. It wouldn't be so bad if that was just that. But to consider my own happiness to be more important than that of others. So it's a type of mind that when it comes down to it, I do anything to guarantee my own happiness, and I'm happy to sacrifice someone else's well-being for it. Okay, just for that. So there's therefore a difference. But there's also a mind that wishes to be happy. And that mind is important. That mind we all have, we naturally have it. If we don't have it, we have a problem. Okay, that may be due to some, I don't know, temporary mental problems, etc., that we may not have that mind, and that is very unhealthy. We need to have the mind that wishes to be happy. And that everyone has the right to be happy. That's also important. So just as I have the right, everyone else does too. So instead of saying that my happiness is more important, I'm saying my happiness is important as everyone else's. Yeah. And so to generate compassion and so forth, I'm working on the basis of that mind. So I generate compassion because what is also important, I haven't discussed it yet, is our interdependence. We think of ourselves as me over here and you over there, okay? But that distance that my mind creates from myself and everyone else is only a creation of the mind. My happiness is dependent on yours, and yours is dependent on mine. In fact, we are interdependent. Our well-being is dependent on each other. That'll be more discussed as part of this text, etc. And so if I want to be happy, I need to bring happiness to others, because if others are happy, I gain happiness. It's impossible to have happiness on my own. Do you see what I'm saying? So therefore, compassion makes sense. Compassion makes sense. I want to be happy. I have the right to be happy. I have a responsibility to be happy. Because if I'm a happy person, I can be of much greater benefit to others. I have more energy. I feel more at peace. I'm an example for others. So if I consider the fact that I and others are equally important, then it doesn't make sense that I act out of self-cherishing, which is the wish, which is the sense that my happiness is more important than others. But if it's equally important, then love and compassion make sense. Am I making sense in that way? So it's that extreme. It's just an extreme notion. The wish to be happy is the normal. The wish to be happy at the cost of others' happiness, that's self-cherishing, right? So whether it's realistic or not, I mean, it's not like saying I can now bring happiness to everyone equally. No, that's not realistic. Let's keep realistic. I'm just saying the motivating force, that which motivates my actions, if it is not extreme, if it's the balanced way, then it's the sense I need to be happy and everyone else does too. What can I do to bring this about? And act accordingly, right? And understand, of course, suffering will still arise because we're in samsara. I'll suffer and others will suffer, but the goal should be right from the beginning to do actions that neither harm myself nor others, to engage in actions. That is a mind that is not based on self-centeredness. Does that make sense? Ideally. Am I answering you? Did I answer your question?
Yeah, it's a matter of debate. I have further thoughts on it, but
yes.
I'll think of it
yes.
and
good.
Answer.
Yeah, okay.
Neta,
yes.
please. Neta, and then Edward, and then Orit. Neta, you are mute.
Yeah, okay. Now you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, do you?
I do. I hear you clearly, Neta. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm not a Buddhist.
Okay.
But I really appreciate Buddhist Buddha Dharma and
mm-hmm.
Buddha wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
But I really I don't know if I say, I don't believe in prayers.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I can imagine now in Israel, thousands of very religious people are standing in the synagogue and yeshiva and they're
mm-hmm.
praying.
Mm-hmm.
Brackets don't do anything else but praying.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, Annie Losang suggested me to join the Golden Sutra.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't believe in reciting sutras and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
mm-hmm.
I would have liked to do something, action.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Not that I really can, but I'm trying.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's what I wanted to hear about praying. I mean, is praying, I can guess that praying helps people that can believe in it. But praying and praying and praying, I don't know. Now there is another thing, maybe more important or no. I used to believe in karma.
Mm-hmm.
After what happened 10 days ago,
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I don't believe in karma anymore. I think somehow something felt in my mind that karma is a very, how do you say it, easy solution to understand what is happening. Well, all it's karma. Karma of the old people, karma of the babies, karma. Well, we can't really explain it, but we still say karma. So suddenly it shocked me. And I'm wondering, I know karma is something to be believed and not something else. It's not a fact. But suddenly I started to wonder, is karma is the question for all what is happening in the world?
Okay. All right. Number one, if you don't feel comfortable with prayer, don't do it. No need. I mean,
okay.
You see, okay, so for instance, the Dalai Lama oftentimes says, yeah, prayer is good, right? But we need to do more than pray.
Exactly.
So the thing is, prayer, the way we think of it in the West is a little different in Buddhism. In Buddhism, prayer is a lot, I mean, there are different types, but in Buddhism, we talk about, for instance, a prayer, may I be more compassionate? May I become a Buddha for the benefit of others? So my own goals. This is just the power of the mind. If we set our mind towards certain goals in the form of aspirational prayers, so it's just the thought, may I do this, may I do that. It's like this aspiration. We are actually able to do this. I mean, if you want to go to university when you're in kindergarten and you always, oh, may I be able to go to university? May I be able to go? You creating the causes and conditions for that to happen. Because the first point is the wish to do so. Okay, so that's the kind of prayer. Praying for others, it can have a positive effect when you have a karmic connection to someone, because we're all connected, right? Especially with those we have a special connection from the past.
Absolutely.
With, right? So it may actually affect them. Like a mother thinks of her child and it may calm down the child and so forth. So even that can happen, that can help. But I think it's even more important, like you're saying, to go out and do something. I mean, I think that is actually, but more important means in the sense that we need to, of course, have the right kind of attitude when we do so, the right kind of motivation. And for that, again, we need to internalize certain ideas and make sure we are mindful of what's going on in our own mind and so forth, right? But for some people, prayers are very effective. So it just depends on the person. For some people, when they recite a mantra, for instance, their mind is all over the place otherwise. There's anger, there's frustration, right? And to apply the antidotes and emptiness, no way. I can totally understand that. I have times when my mind is all over the place and I just recite a prayer. I recite like a prayer. I don't even think so much of the words, but just the rhythm of it, or sometimes I think of the word. And psychologically, it helps my mind to calm down and direct it in a different way, away from the anger, away from the frustration. It's all psychological means. Buddhism is all about psychology. And at certain times, a prayer can be helpful. And at other times, it's like, no, I need to do something. So we can't even say for this person it's like that and for another person it's like that. For a single person, there are times when this is better and there are times when other things are better. Now, when it comes to karma, well, first of all, we have pretty much the same karma, okay? It's not just karma. From a Buddhist point of view, we have done things. So let's say we've all lived since beginningless time. Let's say we've all existed since beginningless time. Then I've definitely been in the 15th century, in the Middle Ages. I can see myself having this axe and running around and cutting off. You know, that was the time. I lived at that time. And if I was a man, I probably had to go to war and did this, that, and the other. I'm not this person any longer. No, I've moved on, hopefully. I mean, I have no urge to, do this. But it's just saying that certain things in the past can lead to certain experiences now, right? But that's not all. You need the circumstances. We pretty much have the same karma. Exactly. We pretty much have the same karma. I can't say my karma is better than yours or yours is better than mine, right? But right now, I'm in a circumstance such that Hamas is not nearby. If I had been in Israel at that time and I'd been in South India, that karma may have ripened in the same way, right? So it's not just karma. I mean, anyway, forget about the karma even. It's not even important when you think of others. It's not important when you think of others. It's only in our own case. It can be helpful, all right? So to make sense of what's going on right now, I don't think karma is a good idea. What helps me to think is that we have pretty much the same karma. There's just a difference that one ripens earlier than the other because of the circumstances. So therefore, we all have the karma to die in a terror attack. We all have the karma but whether it ripens at this point or a different point, there are other factors involved. Karma is too complicated, right? It's just saying there are certain causes. I mean, it's just another way of saying the causes and conditions being in this place versus that place and so forth. So it's a lot more complicated. The Dalai Lama, first of all, he always says, not everything is karma. That's important. Not everything is karma. And secondly, but this means something very specific. So saying the fact that things are impermanent, that is not karma. They just are impermanent. But then he also very much stresses the fact that it's dependent on so many other factors, right? There's our own mind stream that we bring from the past, and there are all these other factors. And let's say I get killed now, for instance, and I personally believe, well, I've created the causes in the past. But let's say it was millions of years ago. That's got nothing to do with me right now. I may be, I don't know, on the path of accumulation, a path of preparation, if I were, right? And still it could happen to me. You see, it's
is it now a very soft way to understand what things are happening? I mean, okay, everything is karma. I mean, this is a way out to understand the conditions, and we all say karma.
No, I don't. No, I don't think I say karma. I mean, like in my situation, like I'm saying, don't think of others as karma and so forth. It's their karma. It's not helpful. It's only
I think about the little children, the babies, the things, and then we all say this is karma. It's not karma, it's cause and conditions. Yeah, that I agree.
Yes, but karma really means causes. Karma just means causes, actions. The word for karma, we have a slightly, I think, different way of looking at karma than what the Buddha described. The Buddha is really just saying karma is actions. Actions accumulated in the past. And actions accumulated in the past, they at some point lead to certain experiences, but not in themselves. Not in themselves. You need a lot of other factors. You need a lot of other factors for an action that I did in the past to somehow ripen in the form of an experience. But I don't think of it like everything is karma. I mean, in every situation that I experience, I think, okay, I must have created the causes in the past, but there's more to it. There's also the other person that was responsible, right? We need to stop people from harming themselves and others. Yeah. So it's not saying, let's just lay back, it's all karma. No, not at all. Not at all.
But
not at all.
You have to behave well and this, because it will be written in your karma for now and for 1,000 years ago. And
you don't have to do anything. If you see, if I don't want to suffer, then I don't give suffering to others. That's as much. I mean, karma is really saying we're all connected. We're all connected. So if I give out any harm, that harm will come back to me. If I put poison in a river, right, then it'll eventually end up in my drinking water. Think of the environment. I mean, the environment, everything is connected. If you put poison in one part of the environment, it will affect other areas as well. So think of karma, we're like a huge organism with everyone being connected. And if I harm others, that harm comes back to me at some point, right? That's all it is saying. And that may take many, many generations, many millions of years. But it only comes back to me independence on, again, other factors, not independently.
So how can you explain karma about babies that were killed?
Like I said, karma is only one aspect. Okay, let's say I was that baby that was killed. Okay, so let's say I was born into, like, let's say in Germany, there's going to be a huge terror attack and I die, this life is over, and I'd be born as a little girl somewhere in Germany. Okay. So in the past, maybe 1,000 years ago, I was in an army and I killed someone. I don't know, whatever I did. I killed others. I enjoyed doing it maybe long time ago. It's this mental continuum that goes on, right? And now I'm not this person. I may be even compassionate and kind, etc. But for some reason in that situation, that karma ripens, right? It ripens and I get killed, but then that karma is gone and I'm reborn in a better situation, possibly, right? So it's not saying that with the end of this one life, I was born as this girl, and now my life is shortened by being killed, and now I'm in a different situation. Karma is gone because it ripened in the form of being killed, right? That doesn't mean, as that little child, that I'm not a kind person. Possibly I'm a kind person. I've developed further. I mean, in this life I practiced and I was a kind, compassion, but stuff happens. This happened to me. It's terrible. It's unbelievably terrible for my parents in that situation. I don't know. I mean, I'm not trying to say this doesn't matter. I'm not saying it doesn't matter. Please don't get me wrong. But I'm saying it's not the end, right? We continue to live on in different situations. Okay. But anyway, I don't even think when a little child is born, it's their karma. I don't think that way. I'm not like thinking.
It was born, it was killed.
Yes, it was born, it was killed because there were perpetrators that killed it, and they need to be stopped. Something needs to be done that this doesn't happen again. And instead of thinking, oh, it's their karma, to generate, of course, compassion, but just understand causes and conditions were created for that to happen. Causes and conditions that this child's mind has also created.
Absolutely.
That's it.
That's absolutely.
That's it.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Edward, please.
Yes, Edward.
Yes, thank you. I'll try to be brief and clear because it's quite a mess here, I guess, like for all of us.
Sure.
So I completely agree with what was said about the civil society, which is a source of respiration, of breathing, of opening the heart. Now, on a more prosaic level, a couple of things that we're trying to avoid, and a couple of things that we're trying to do. First of all, we're lucky enough not to have a TV at home.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, information flows through newspapers, the radio, social media, but we can choose more easily what to see and what not to see. Mm-hmm. And we choose not to see the horrible things. I don't think it helps us to see that. And also we're lucky enough to have one of our grandchildren with us here. And that means that we have to be careful using words. Now, about something that, we saw on social media, connected with different groups, trying to help, also doing things, but also looking at what's going on, that this young woman, 19 years old, from Kibbutz Be'eri, and she was there. And she talks for, I think, 7-8 minutes with no hatred at all, thinking of what she has gone through, thinking about what her family, neighbors, friends have gone through, and thinking about what the people in Gaza are going through. And I also think about the people in Gaza. It doesn't mean anything about responsibility, but there are so many people suffering there as well. And I think we should not think about that as well. And I just want to say another, short sentence. Maybe it's connected to the discussion on karma. I was born and raised in France. In the 60s, when I was a child, there was this word for Germans, les Boches.
Bosch.
Yeah,
I
don't think, of course, it's a very derogatory word.
Term.
Yeah, term. I don't think that young people in France today even know the word, maybe from old movies. Germany and France are the best partners. And And the hatred between the nations was incommensurable.
Mm-hmm.
So things change.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yes. Thank you, Edward.
And lastly, I proposed that I holding small meditation sessions for students at the university.
Mm-hmm.
And people who've never done Buddhism, I don't even mention Buddhism. I use the tools that we're using in order to focus and relax and help people do that. So
very good.
That's where I think the Dharma is helping me a lot. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Edward, that's beautiful. Yes.
Sorry, because we had to finish, I suggest that Torit will ask her question and then you can
address it.
It's just 30 seconds.
Please.
What helps me usually is to watch the biographies of this realized being, like Geshe Rinpoche or His Holiness Dalai Lama, Dilko Khyentse Rinpoche. It's like seeing the light at the end of the dark tunnel.
Beautiful, beautiful. You're right. Beautiful. I mean, it's so beautiful to hear what you're saying. What Edward said is so beautiful as well, because to hear from a person who's been affected, this is I feel like a total hypocrite because I'm at the comfort in India and what am I talking about? Compassion, you know, but to hear it from a person who's directly affected, who still has this compassion and love in our heart, to talk about everyone's suffering is so inspiring. Those are the people that can really make a difference. That's really beautiful. So I'm thinking when it comes from someone within Israel in that way, that is truly inspiring. But I also like what Edward said about this calmness and calming the mind. And also Leora talked about it, because it gives you the space of mind to tap into your own love and compassion and allow for that to come through. And of course, as you just mentioned, the great masters, right? Because they're such good examples. So they show us how to do it. And they inspire us to act similarly and gives us a sense of, yeah, we can become like that and other people will become like that. So however dark it seems right now, as you said, there's light at the end of the tunnel. Beautiful. Yeah. So beautiful. Thank you so much. I'm sorry I took up so much of your time. I talked too long. I always have that habit to talk for far too long in the beginning.
Yeah, it's so important. So it's really, thank you so much, Geshe-ma. Do you
well,
just say the dedication now?
Yes, of course. Let's do the dedication. Sorry, we don't have a meditation today. We will do it next time, but I needed to get a sense to connect with you because I can't see you. I'm not there. So I'm so grateful to all of you sharing. And let's then dedicate all the positive potential that we accumulated this time. May we have been able to sow the seeds of compassion in an effective way as the first step towards sowing them even deeper, sowing more seeds. So let's dedicate all the positive potential we've accumulated towards our own enlightenment, our own awakening. May it also be a cause for our great masters to be a further inspiration by having a long and healthy life. And of course, may what we do have an effect on everyone in Israel so that it affects them however long it may take, and hopefully sooner than later, that it brings about peace and allows for people to generate more love and compassion in their hearts. So with this in mind, let's recite the dedication prayers. Through the merits of these virtuous actions, may I quickly attain the state of a Guru Buddha, and lead all living beings without exception into that enlightened state. In the land encircled by snow mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good. All-powerful Chinrezig Denzin Gyatso, please remain until samsara ends. May the precious Bodhi mind not yet born arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore. Thank you very much, and see you again next Monday. Next Monday, I'll have the text for you. Okay.
Thank you, Geshe-ma. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.